Coming up on Tekzilla, hard drive recovery, we got secrets from an expert. Boost your cell phone reception, dump Adobe Reader, and gorgeous pictures from space. And of course, we got to stack your viewer questions, so butter up your grits and grab a spoon, because Tekzilla starts now. This episode of Tekzilla is made possible by GoToAssist Express, Verizon Droid apps, and Squarespace. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Welcome to Tekzilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you've already got.
Whether you're a beginner or tech support for your friends and family, if you've got a question about tech or why you should push the shiny red button as portrayed in the movie The Box, we've got an answer for you.
The jolly candy-like button? Uh-oh. And if we don't, we'll track someone down who I'm nervous about the red button in the box. Oh boy. Hey, in case anybody's wondering, toddlers love the iPad and it does skim on water. Just kidding.
Oh, for a second I believed you and I got really concerned.
No.
For everyone.
He does like watching movies on it. He thinks it's really cool.
My godson, baby Petey, actually thinks every computer is an iPad.
Really?
And so when he goes on his Toshiba laptop, his dad's Toshiba laptop, he tries to like pat on the screen, and finally we're like, oh my God, he thinks it's an iPad.
That's because
it's
all
amazing.
Toddlers are Vulcans and have perfect logic. If one computer screen is touchable, they should all be touchable.
It makes total sense. But anyway, the poor dude that lost the iPhone is apparently still employed, but Gizmodo's Jason Chen, one of the editors that broke the next-gen iPhone story, had his computer gear taken by the California's Rapid Enforcement Allied Computer Team. They had a warrant and grabbed 4 computers and 2 servers and a bunch of other stuff.
Now, personally, I gotta say, I was kind of disappointed they didn't put up a big picture of Jason on the homepage like they did of the guy who lost the iPhone, whose name we refused to mention here.
I know. I kind of want that guy's head at this point. The
Why?
guy who sold it to Gizmodo. I mean, Gizmodo's taken all the heat, but they still haven't released the name of the dude that sold it to them in the first place. I think he should get a little bit more flack than he's been taking.
Well, it's kind of interesting, right?
I'm not saying Gizmodo's blameless or anything. I'm not here to play armchair lawyer, but you know, I'm ready for his head to come out.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see because right now, because basically, right, there's a search warrant from a judge. It's just like, what do I know about a search warrant? It looks legit to me, but the legal team, or the people who do legal for Gizmodo, claims that the search, or I should say the seizure, was illegal, and that as a journalist, Chen can't be forced to give up his sources, the whole 901 law, that basically your sources are protected.
Which is assuming that sources are what Apple is after, not just pure basic revenge for the whole iPhone scenario in the first place.
Hope you enjoyed your umpty million hits. Here you go. Yeah, this excitement. And as much as exciting as it is, it's not nearly exciting as you're going to Japan.
Yes, I'm not going to be here next week. I'm going to be in Japan. We're starting in Osaka, and then we're going to Kyoto for a few days, and then we're finishing up in Tokyo for the rest of the trip. I'm shooting for Core, so it's not all fun and games. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Are you going to bring back strange presents?
Oh, of course. Always. Lots of strange candy, especially.
I like that, though. We should point out, actually, that's part of the reason we do not have a giant pile of taco here, because there's...
Oh, my God, the tacos! Where are the tacos?
Do you really want a giant pile of tacos 7 hours, 9 hours before you get on a plane for the next 22 hours of your life?
But I guess you should be more concerned about whoever's sitting next to me on that trip. Although we did deduce today in studio that girl farts are actually very similar to kitten size and yawns. It's like, meh, meh.
You know,
I didn't come up with that. That's what.
You got to come
totally
to Jersey. I'll show you some. Yeah, let's not even go there.
Well, anyway, tacos. So 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks from now.
Or are you going to skip tacos?
No, we won't skip it. I thought I was doing you a favor, right, rather than filling you with a giant pile of tacos.
Well, I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. That's good foresight.
On a bright and cheerful note, we figured out a new and exciting way to do backups in our house.
Yeah.
Backup parties.
Backup parties.
We'll talk about it when you get back.
All right. Well, anyway, I personally avoid PDF documents like the plague, so I'm not really impacted by Adobe Reader the way Patrick is. He hates it. He loves it. He hates it again.
Mostly it's hate.
Mostly hate. And judging from some tweets he got last week, some of you are wondering what to do when Reader makes you a sad panda. Patrick?
Adobe Reader was a resource-sucking mess that a year or two ago with Adobe Reader 9, it wasn't. At least not until the last few weeks when I finally gave up on keeping Adobe Reader from trying to install something over and over again every time I rebooted my machine. Then I'd install it, and then I'd try to reinstall it again. And I was thinking about reinstalling Adobe 9, delete, reinstall Adobe Reader 9, right? That would be the noble thing to do. But the app is just pissed me off. And I know there's settings to keep it from auto-updating, but frankly, they weren't working for me. The error might be between keyboard and chair, but uninstalling Reader and loading Foxit Reader made the pain go away. If you don't know about it, you should. Foxit Reader's been downloaded like 9 million times off of download.com, so it's kind of well proven. It's small, it's light, it reads. Look, it's a PDF tool. I come to say the instructions for the furnace in my Airstream, look, it launches. And I have a PDF doc that I can read, and it's free. Foxit Reader lets you basically view, print, and annotate any PDF. And I personally have never annotated a PDF file, an Adobe doc file, but if I suddenly find the need to annotate one, I will be able to do it again for free. It's fast, it's clean, and it doesn't make me want to start kicking my cubicle in anger. Now, if you want to create or edit PDF files, you're going to have to upgrade to Foxit PDF Creator or Foxit PDF Editor. Now, several folks on Twitter clued me into an application I'd never heard of. It's somewhat less known, and it's somewhat geekier. It's Pdf-Xchange Viewer. You're looking at me like, yeah, PDFs. You really
I'm not a big PDF fan either, but I like to hear about alternate tools.
Well, this is an awesome alternate tool. Again, it's your basic view, modify, annotate, minor edit thing, but Exchange Viewer is kind of a free sample and hopes you'll upgrade to the Pro version, which offers bookmarking, scan to PDF, and a metric ton of editing features.
That's what I like. I want more editing features.
Yeah, well, you'll like this. That's part of why there's a giant pile of icons across the top. You think it's too cluttered? Don't worry. You can customize the toolbar action up there if you don't want to use all the editing features. Exchange is $35 for a single license. The full Foxit PDF Editor, that runs $99. The Foxit PDF Creator is $29.99. Look, the basic PDF viewer bits for both are totally free, and they're not Adobe Reader, and neither one of them has caused me to kick things in anguish and pain because they kept trying to reload.
Yeah.
Okay, I will say the free software, do the custom installation because you may find a toolbar installed in your system if you don't pay attention during installation. So opt out of toolbar hell.
And speaking of attention, while we've got yours, just this week my mom was having some trouble with her computer. She's on a pretty old machine and doesn't always know how to fix it when things are going wrong. All I had to do was send her an email with my GoToAssist Express link, and I was able to hop onto her machine, no problem. The whole thing took about 5 minutes to fix, and I didn't have to waste time with explanations over the phone. As long as you both have an internet connection, GoToAssist Express makes it painless to help people with their computer troubles, share a screen and live chat regardless of whether you're on a Mac or a PC. It can save you time, money, and a whole lot of frustration. Try GoToAssist Express free for 30 days. For this special offer, you must visit gotoassist.com/Tekzilla. That's gotoassist.com/Tekzilla for a free trial.
Welcome to this week's freebie download pick, a free program that we find useful, fun, or incredibly interesting. This week, Avid Emux. If you're looking for a tool that lets you perform simple timeline edits along with a wealth of video transcoding options, skip buying an off-the-shelf package and try out Avid Emux first. It's not a replacement for a full-featured video editor, but Avid Emux is perfect if you need to trim and repackage existing videos for different formats. You can cut, append, copy, de-interlace, resize, crop, rotate, reverse video clips, plus export them in a number of different formats like OGM, FLV, MP4, and AVI. And with native support for OGM, MP4, and Matroska files, Avid Emux can make short work of files that might have other apps scratching their heads in confusion and pain. So before you reach for your wallet and spend money on a video editor, do yourself a favor, check out Avid Emux first. Most hard drive recovery experts want you to send them a very big check and trust their in-house data recovery gnomes to use magic to make your data reappear after the check clears. Scott Moulton is a little different. He wants his money if he's recovering a drive for you, but he's into teaching people and occasionally three-letter agencies how to recover data. And yes, he recovers data. His company, Forensic Strategy, and it's myharddrivedied.com. If you go to one of your seminars, you get like 1,200 pages of information, including, I think, where is it? You were actually probably the first person I heard about this. Where is it? The myths about hard drives. Freezing hard drives will save your data, true and false.
Yes, it will actually work, but obviously it depends on the type of damage that you have for your drive, whether or not it will work or not. Usually it's things like contacts or something where a pin might not be making contact, and then when you freeze it, it'll actually cause contact to actually touch the board or something like that where it will actually work. But it will also cause damage as well. So it's really not, condensation, all kinds of other damage. So it is not very scientific. It is not the best method for doing data recovery. It's like the last resort if you have no hardware, no equipment, and no skills to do it. Then, you know, putting it in a freezer may be the one shot you have if you're not going to send it anyplace. If you're not playing, if it's not critical data. but you'd be surprised at how often I hear that this is priceless data, and then you tell them price, and then it's not priceless anymore. So things like that happen.
Actually, it turns out the price is lower than that. Well, let's talk about what's new in data recovery.
Well, the biggest things are, we have two major things that have basically happened. One is imaging by MFTs, basically on Windows systems, which are the majority of recoveries, using the actual MFT itself to be more surgical in what you actually are recovering, so that you're not having to image a whole drive or trying to deal with the entire disk itself.
So what's the MFT for everybody playing along?
The MFT is the master file table. It's basically in a Windows formatted drive in NTFS. It is the catalog of where your files are and what files you have. So like the My Documents list is actually a list inside of a catalog. And when you choose that, it'll calculate where the clusters are based on the logical block addresses for where that file is.
But I'm at home, my hard drive dies. After I finish panicking, what's the first thing I should do? Obviously, we've just learned, do not immediately run it to the freezer with a USB cable dangling out. Right. What's the first thing I should do?
Well, the very first thing is you can use, and I have done some videos and some conferences to try to help people do data recovery themselves, but more to understand what that problem was so you can kind of evaluate what that problem is yourself. So there's differences in where the drive is. So your first option is, do I want to try to do something myself and not spend any money, or is it really critical data? Do I want to spend some money and actually get this data back? Because then you draw that line, you say, no, I'm not going to do something myself, or I will cause detrimental death to this drive and never be able to recover it. You become a disk destroyer instead of a data recovery.
Because if you definitely, absolutely, positively have to have those TPF reports back, you should probably send it out.
If you need a TPS report, so you should probably consider sending it out, because there is a lot to data recovery. It's not just a matter of, I've got some software and I run it on a disk and I do something. There's a difference between a hardware problem and a software problem. And so, if your machine starts to boot and Windows crashes, well, then you may have some bad sectors, but at least you can see data. So once you've actually got to that point, there's a high probability it's not a firmware problem or some other horrible thing, a dead head or something on your drive if you can get that far. It's when it clicks or clunks or something like that, and it makes different sounds. Horrible grinding sounds. There's a bunch of things about how it responds, and I've actually been trying to give people that information. So I've done some videos that are out on YouTube and off of myharddrivedied.com to teach you how to know what type of problem you have when it dies, so that you can kind of make that determination yourself.
So where should we start? If we hear the clunking, grinding, threshing noises, it's probably time to call in a professional?
Yeah, it really depends on how you're connected to the machine first off. So in this particular instance, as you can see, what I have in front of me is I actually have a motherboard, and I'm connected directly to the motherboard and I have a piece of equipment here in addition to that. But if I was trying to do data recovery myself, there's a big difference between using a USB off of, say, a laptop or off of a desktop and using a motherboard and directly connecting to it. There are free utilities, like MHDD is one of them, and it comes from hddguru.com, and then there's another one called Victoria, and it will help you determine some of the problems with your drive, but you really need to be connected to your motherboard and not through USB. USB, people forgot, USB sucks. USB is like, how to get an accessory on your machine. It's not great for data recovery because you can't control the command set that's talking to the motherboard, the ATA command set. Okay. So if you look that up, you'll actually see that you can actually apply commands to talk to the drive, and most software equipment will do that, but not through USB. Those things don't work.
So I've got it connected to my hard drive, or my hard drive's connected to my motherboard, it doesn't work. What's the next level?
The next thing I would do is actually use a DOS utility that's called MHDD. And MHDD would be, you would basically use a floppy or a CD-ROM and you'd boot on it. And then you could actually see the drive itself and see whether or not it responds. There's basically a command that says, I started the drive and I've got a busy signal. And then the busy signal actually is very similar to like a modem. It'll actually respond to me, and you can actually get back errors, and you can get back certain kinds of information from a sector when it's red. And so typically, most of the tools that we've used up till now have been pretty dumb. Yeah, they don't really tell you any errors. They just say, I tried to read your drive, sorry, I failed. Whereas a piece of software that actually understands the drive can actually request a sector, get back a particular type of error, and tell you what type of error that is, rather than just, I'm dumb and I don't know anything. This particular tool is called a Deep Spar Disk Imager. But it's one of the best tools for doing data recovery because it does some other things too, like if you have a clunking drive and you have a bad head, you can actually turn off one bad head that would have taken you 3 weeks to copy a drive. And you can turn off the bad head and get just the files that you want from the other sections. Because of this particular function it has for turning off bad heads, it's the only thing in this price range that will actually do it. After you go up to the next tools, it's all firmware stuff that actually starts dealing with head masks and things like that to turn them off. And this particular tool actually is kind of like a BitTorrent for hard drives. It'll actually start building a list, and anything that shows up green in these particular boxes will be a good copy. It'll be actually a good thing that it's actually copying, and it will make multiple passes. It will go forward, then it will go in reverse, and it'll try to whittle down any errors. And anything that's green, if there's a problem, it will skip the problems and it will mark them with a different color. And then it'll come back and whittle those down so that you can just skip those bad blocks and come back and get those bad blocks later. So you're not spending all this effort actually doing something else, grinding on a sector that might be damaged. Because most imaging tools start at the beginning and then they go to a spot where they actually fail. And then once they fail, they don't continue on. So you'll end up with bad blocks or something else that it's actually talking to.
What happens if, so I've taken it out of the USB or I've tried it on a second motherboard just in case the first motherboard's flaky, and it seems like the hard drive's dead. Either it doesn't want to boot up, I get a grinding noise, then what happens?
Well, from that standpoint, when you actually power on the drive and you've powered it on and you've used something like MHDD to boot on, then the issue is there will be a command that will say busy, and then it will go from busy to drive seek complete and drive ready. And you will get two other commands that will basically say, I've at least responded and I've read part of the disk. And there's three pieces of major information that you're looking for. One would be the model number, the serial number, and then the third one being the LBA blocks. What's your geometry?
Are we going to now talk about transferring Platters to a new enclosure?
Well, that would be the step if we actually had like a motor that didn't spin. We actually got to a spot where it never comes ready. And in a lot of cases, if the motor doesn't spin and you can't get it to actually come ready, it'll give you like a phaser sound. It'll sound a little bit like Star Trek. It'll go and you'll get like a weird
that
sound.
One too.
Yeah. So it'll sound a little bit like that, and basically that means that the Platters aren't moving, the head can't move, and so you're not able to seek any information at all on the disk. So in a lot of cases that does mean I've got some sort of a motor problem or my heads are stuck to the platter. We have this old problem that's still back, it's called stiction, where your head sticks to the platter and then the platter can't turn. So it's still a possibility there. I do have to caution people about just opening drives from a standpoint of Western Digital drives. Western Digital drives have a head that's actually attached to the lid. And if you just arbitrarily opened it, and clean rooms aside, or what are the other issues with clean rooms, the lid,
lack thereof.
or lack thereof, it is possible to do a data recovery without a clean room, but there's a whole list of arbitrary things that you need to understand before you do that. But if I had practiced enough, and I was really good at it, I may still be able to open the drive, get it to spin, and then put it back together, get my data off of it, and throw the drive away. But if it's a Western Digital drive, you should not open it. The lid itself is actually what is used for the alignment for the head assembly. And most of the new Western Digital drives all have a board problem. And so it'll sound like a head problem, and it'll kind of make this clicking or a slightly grinding sound, but it's all a board problem. There's a failure on the board, and then you actually have to use some high-end tool to copy the ROM so that you can put it on a good board and use the board. But it acts like a head problem.
That's got to be really frustrating. I mean, Veronica and I both use a lot of Western Digital products. We've been pretty happy, but so Western Digital is now having some diode issues on some of the PCBs. Are there specific lines that are having the issues, or?
I have seen it in almost all of the new perpendicular lines, all the stuff that's been around for like the last year and a half, 2 years or so. So for instance, this particular one that's in front of me is a Western Digital 500 AAKS. This one would be one that would have that problem. In a lot of cases, they have this triangular board on the bottom.
Got it.
And this particular triangular board is a good indication of when you might actually have a board failure and not really a head failure.
This is why we're always talking about backing up your backup. So how's Seagate doing? They had massive firmware problems over for
at Christmas of 2008 to January 2008, they had some massive firmware problems, and there was 2 or 3 different firmware problems. Most of that has been fixed, and most of it we can get around. So most of it, if you have a Seagate drive now that actually has a failure, it is possible for us to do the data recovery by doing a weird kind of firmware update.
Okay, one thing before we go, solid state drives. Is there if a solid state drive crashes, is there data recovery or is it a paperweight?
It is a very difficult task. I've been spending about 1.5 years doing solid state recoveries and trying to get to the spot where, the original concept was that we could use the chip. We could take the chip off, we could read the chip, and then try to reassemble them.
That's non-trivial.
No, it is not trivial. That is like If you've ever assembled a RAID array, it's like that times 100 for even a simple one. But most solid-state failures are not the actual chip or a cracked board. They're usually some sort of a diode or resistor or what's called TVSs on the board itself. So most of the time you can try to figure out what it is, but in a lot of cases you might need a meter or an oscilloscope or something to do that, but you have to compare it to a good one in a lot of cases too. So that's the hard part. But it is possible to do recoveries, but most of them are actually doing board repairs. Similar to what we might do in hard drives when we actually have like a PCB board that gets smoked.
We got to go. Where do people find more information? What's the best website?
The best place to go is myharddrivedied.com, and I have a presentation page where you can go and see do-it-yourself stuff, and I also have a classes page, and coincidentally I'm having a class in San Francisco in 2 months, and I have San Diego in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
So anybody that's on this coast, look out for those classes on the presentations or on the classes page.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can promise you he doesn't talk quite so fast in the presentations because he doesn't have me pushing him along. Scott Moulton, people, myharddrivedied.com. Great information on data recovery. Check it out. Ever have cruddy cell phone reception? You're going to want to hear about the Sleek. But first, let's thank one of our sponsors. Verizon Droid apps have access to every tool the phone has, including the compass, GPS, accelerometer, image capture, and for those who love watching their shows on the go, a video player. The power of the Android apps allows them to run in the background for true multitasking support, unlike some phones, background alerts, and enhancements of each other's performance. Verizon's dominant network and 3G coverage create an unparalleled mobile data solution to keep you connected to the web and allow you to run heavy data-rich features anytime, anywhere. And with the ever-expanding Android market, you'll always be able to quickly download the apps you need to get the most out of your Droid. So if that sounds good, head over to droiddoes.com to find the latest and greatest applications for your Verizon Droid.
Looks like it's time for another website we just can't get enough of. A website that we just can't stay away from because it's too useful, too funny, or just too darn irresistible. This week's pick, the Spitzer Space Telescope. When Roger and I visited the Jet Propulsion Lab down in Pasadena a few weeks ago, we learned all about the Spitzer Space Telescope and saw some of the amazing images it's taken of the cosmos. Luckily, you don't have to travel to SoCal to see them. Just check out their website at spitzer.caltech.edu. Now, this is the beta version of their website. To see the old one, just type in www before the address. From the new site, you can see news articles, track how far the telescope has traveled, and of course, view the amazing images they've collected over the past 2,400 plus days since it launched. My favorite section of the site is the video and audio collections, which include virtual tours of the galaxy, podcasts like Ask an Astronomer, and even a musical or two. So if you want to get up close and personal with outer space, make a virtual visit today, courtesy of the Spitzer Space Telescope. And thanks to our friends at the JPL for the tour.
Femtocells might be all the rage for improving cell phone reception inside your home. Why wouldn't AT&T be excited about charging you $100 or $150 for a box to improve your cell phone reception from AT&T, especially since it uses
your internet access. See what they did there?
Oh,
Isn't that
so
hilarious?
clever.
How you're paying twice to get your own cell phone coverage?
On the upside.
Isn't that hilarious?
No,
Aren't you laughing?
Bitter much?
Because I'm laughing.
I'm going to be running across the room in a section. The femtocell does deliver better reception for you, and it takes a load off their towers, and you paid for it. Rumor has it Sprint just got theirs through the FCC. I'm pretty sure we're going to end up with one stuffed in the dark corner of our office. The femtocells, which are basically a base station that connects to your cell phone and connects your cell phone to the internet, are not so useful. Breathe.
Rage.
Inhale. Breathe. Okay. They're not so useful in the car, Wilson Electronics Sleek. This is an amplifier booster for your cell phone. I've shown off Wilson Electronics products in the past. They're what I've used to get a signal when I'm in the wide open spaces where cell phone cover gets extraordinarily thin. They also help out in San Francisco where cell phone coverage can get extraordinarily thin depending on what block you're on or what part of your office building you're in, or your office or side of your cubicle. I had a couple 300 tied up in the big one that I had in my truck and still have. The Sleek here though costs $99. It runs off a cigar lighter socket. Basically, you screw the antenna into the base station, the Sleek base station. The magnetic antenna goes on the roof, and you plug the power supply into your cigarette lighter or cigar socket or 12-volt power source, which is, I think, what they're calling them now. And this is my little portable 12-volt power source. So this is not part of the Sleek, I should point out. This is decidedly not Sleek. So this is on the roof of your car. This is basically, it's an adjustable cradle, so they've got two different sets of arms so you can adjust them in and out. It's not the best for the smallest cell phones, but I'm going to widen it up so we can drop it in there. And it's got a little padded base and space to put a charger through. Now, we were getting like 0 to 1 bar before, but I went from 0 bars to 5 bars using the Wilson Sleek. Now, obviously, this isn't the normal test environment, although, as I've pointed out, I was using this to make phone calls in my car. I've used it to make phone calls in my cubicle where my cell phone barely works. You've heard me like, wait, hold on.
The Revision 3 offices are notorious for not getting cell phone reception, so I'm not surprised that this comes in handy.
Oh, it's a reinforced concrete building, and there's like 1/4-inch steel plate in the floors. It used to be a cannery with giant equipment. We're in a Faraday cage, essentially. Yeah. So look, trouble with your wireless modem, you can actually try laying the Sleek on top of the wireless modem to help boost the signal. It'll run off the USB ports in your machine because it literally runs off of a regular
Now this is a one-time payment, right? You're not paying for any kind of
You buy it once.
Recurring, okay.
You're done.
Great, see, now that I can get behind.
So, you like that
A little bit. Well, if you're traveling around in your car, it's kind of granted that you're going to run into some splotchy areas, you know, in terms of coverage. I'm not a fan of having to buy one of those things for my home.
Yeah, that gets pretty frustrating.
Not cool.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, you know, cell phone, we've said it before, we've said it again, cell phone reception is a nightmare here in San Francisco. Wilson Electronics, they make products that work. I've been using them for years. The Sleek works. I like holding the Sleek up. It amuses me to say Sleek. But if there's no signal, there's no signal. This will give you the best of what's available wherever you are. And if you have a signal, it'll help eliminate dropped calls and cruddy reception. It certainly helped a lot when me wandering around in my car in the sort of dark section of San Francisco. It's got a much smaller, cleaner footprint than earlier Wilson Electronics booster gear, which usually had like the main booster amp was here, and you had the antenna connection, and you had power. It was just kind of complicated. And it's designed, engineered, and built in the United States, which I like because it keeps the money in the United States.
So what are the downsides?
Okay, if you're Nextel iDen, this will not work for you. Also, it will not work for overseas GSM. So if you are hoping to get better connection overseas, this is not going to help you. It is not the best with small phones because they can kind of slide out of here. The little arms need a little more adjustment as you slide them in and out. If you have a candy bar phone, this is going to drive you insane, or you're going to be resorting to duct tape. It's tough to use while using a GPS adapter because you can't really have this and a GPS adapter connected to your phone at the same time. And don't forget, of course, to bring your Bluetooth audio adapter unless you actually think the police are not going to arrest you for wandering around with your cell phone in your car held up like this. And by the way...
Makes it a little more conspicuous.
Yes.
A little bit.
Well, yeah, it's illegal to use your cell phone in a car without a hands-free adapter in California. Ask me how I know. I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
Thumbs up?
I also spent a lot of time in San Francisco where connectivity varies from meter to meter to block, and I also spent a lot of time in the middle of nowhere. And this actually, I've used the boosters for years, and I like them.
Don't some carriers, though, claim that boosters like this can stomp on other users?
Yes, they do. And as a matter of fact, it's really interesting. I talked to Wilson Electronics about this. Obviously, Wilson Electronics is pro boosters. It's what they do. But they pointed out that there was this large document, and basically cell phone carriers want to ban the use of femtocells that aren't sold by cell phone carriers and boosters, right? So basically they want you to buy their stuff directly from them. From what Wilson says is there are a couple of boosters out there that didn't work the way they were supposed to. Wilson claims that theirs is not going to, basically they communicate properly with the cell tower and they're not going to stomp on other people's communications, ... And if anyone has a problem at any of the major carriers, they can call Wilson and they will work with their engineers to solve it, because one of the things that Wilson's pointed out is certain vendors, certain cell phone carriers have refused to let their engineers talk to Wilson to verify or sort out problems if they actually exist.
I'm so surprised. Can you see the surprise on my face? Man, I'm like a bag full of hate today. I'm sorry. I'm not that hate-filled.
You're just looking forward to packing from Japan.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Coming up next, we got some viewer questions for you. But first, let's take a moment for a word from our sponsor, Squarespace. It's a publishing system for anybody. Let's say you find yourself in Japan and you think, I want to start a new blog, and you're thinking, I don't want to deal with HTML, which is fine, because Squarespace is a publishing system, it's a hosting system, but it's designed for basically anybody to use on the fly to build beautiful websites quick and easy without using code. No coding experience is required. You get the same functionality you'll find in some of the most highly trafficked pages on the web. How's that for a line of copy? But look, it works, it's simple, it's easy, it's WYSIWYG. Even I can use it, but I'm a moron when it comes to web development. My wife likes it, she is not a moron when it comes to web development. There's a site importer tool which makes it easy to move things over. If you have an existing site, it supports WordPress, Blogger, TypePad, movable type imports. It'll get your posts, your comments, your tags, your authors, and your media. And it's going to try its best to preserve your SEO efforts, which means your users' page ranks will update seamlessly and the move will have no impact on SEO status. Because you know what? It preserves your links. That's a good thing. You want a discount? Of course you do. Here's the thing. You can try it for 2 weeks free. After your free trial, if you decide to use it, do us a favor, enter in the code Tekzilla. When you check out, you'll get 10% off the lifetime of your order. That adds up over time. It's a good thing. Check it out now, people. Squarespace.com. We appreciate it when you take a look at the sponsors that help keep us on the internets, because technically we're not on the air.
Our next video question comes from Camilo out in Colombia. Take it away, Camilo.
I need to listen to the music that I have on my iPhone through my office computer is back there. And I can see the music, but I cannot listen to. So if you help me with that, that would be great. Thank you, love the show, bye.
So this is kind of an interesting problem because it seems to be a little bit unique to the iPhone in particular. I've seen some workarounds for iPod.
It's locked down.
It's pretty locked down. I mean, there's apps out there that will help you get your music and stream your music off of the iPod, but for iPhone, for some reason, it's a little more difficult. They both allow you to sync manually, and it seems that only the iPod lets you play music from another computer that you're not synced with.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience? I mean, I've tried it several different ways, and I couldn't make it work.
I've basically ended up having my home computer and my work computer both running iTunes, and basically I have synced it to a single account on both machines. That was kind of my end around for it. That's not exactly what you're asking to do,
Not
though.
Exactly. But one solution, and this is kind of funny, is to run your iPhone as a line-in through your PC speakers. Makes sense, right? In Windows 7, just go into the line-in properties, head over to the Listen tab, and select the device from the drop-down.
Oh, funny.
Alternately, you can set up a little, VPN between your home computer and your work computer. All you have to do is install the software. It cuts out all the iPhone middleman in general. You don't have to worry about it. So you can do that using Hamachi VPN, for example.
Will you have issues depending on how good the internet is running, uploading from your house?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
There might be a little bit of an issue there, as good as a VPN connection can be.
Got it.
For streaming media, that can get a little bit iffy from time to time, depending on what kind of connections you have. Like I said, Hamachi VPN is a good method for doing this. Previously,
Hamachi's really cool, by the way. I just want to say that.
Yes. Previously, I would suggest using Simplify Media software, but for some reason, they decided to stop hosting their software, stop accepting new users, and they're not supporting it for right now. I don't know why.
They're changing things.
They're changing
That's
things.
Pretty
Do you
much
have
all they're
inside
saying
info?
Right now. I read the blog entry.
Oh, so we've read the same blog entry. Okay.
Orb would be another option.
Orb is another option. That's a good
That
point.
would let you stream your content from home.
Yeah, and then we talked about the Opera streaming stuff that we talked about a while back. Although that's a little more complicated because you have to actually, do file by file and pick which files you want to have up on that server.
It also kind of assumes that you actually have an internet connection wherever your iPhone is, because maybe your iPhone can go places where you're not allowed to have.
Well,
that's
for iPhone, but I'm talking pretty much desktop PC to desktop PC at this point.
I'm just thinking, yeah.
Yeah, the non-commercial version of Hamachi is free, and you just need to set it up on your home computer and then the computer you want to stream your music to. It's as simple as creating a new network, giving it a username and a password, and then signing in from your other computer. You can actually connect to up to 16 computers, and you can give anyone the password and they can stream off that as well. But if you want to keep it safe and locked down, then just
really
one-to-one. So do you have any other options other than Orb?
There's third-party software that'll basically reach onto the iPhone and yank the songs off of it, but that's not going to work if the songs are locked down, if you are from the iTunes DRM era. I like the idea of just playing it out of the headphone jack. I would prefer having an adapter that pulls the digital audio.
There's tons
off
of
the
docks
bottom.
now out there that have a line out port. So you can just do it from your dock, so you're still charging and still syncing if you want to, but then also have it connect to your speakers, so you can use that as the in.
I'm going to go home and set up Hamachi right now. Now I'm distracted.
That's a good idea. If anyone else out there in Tekzilla land has some suggestions for playing your iPhone through your PC speakers, let us know at tekzilla@revision3.com. And our final question comes from Samwise Hansen. Samwise wasn't the name of the hobbits in the Lord of the Rings, wasn't that?
Samwise Gamgee?
Samwise Gamgee, right. Samwise Hansen wrote,
Bit late for trimming the verge.
Hey guys, my graphic card just failed the other day and my brother's inevitable response was, dude, it's because you didn't have enough power. So I'm wondering, what are the long-term consequences of having a PSU that is too weak? Can it really be the cause of all my computer woes? Samwise. I feel bad making that joke now because he probably gets that all the time.
Yeah.
The Hobbit joke. I'm sorry.
Are your feet furry?
We took the easy joke. Ugh, I feel so lame.
We're so low. Actually,
Anyway, so is he in trouble?
Look, bad power supplies create lots of problems. They create problems with data on the hard drive. They create problems with the computer running effectively. Can it blow out your GPU? Possibly. I would look first to make sure the fan is still there, but the point is moot. The card is dead. What you want to do is keep the card from dying again. A power supply unit that's made to draw volts and it was designed for, i.e. you have this like graphics card that's pulling 160 watts and a 300 watt power supply and 175 watt CPU, this is bad. The graphic card will basically begin to act erratically. If the unit's built with the proper safety precautions, the power supply should shut down before an excess power draw becomes a fire hazard, but you may have damaged your card before you hit there. It's kind of crazy. Usually it starts off, your system kind of starts crashing for no reason, and it's not like, you know, it's Windows. Well, yeah, it's actually may not be Windows. It may actually be your power supply. If it gets serious, however, it might progress to things like hard drives that stop, causing that system crash, or PC that just blanks out for no apparent reason. My personal favorite is the power supply maximum reboot, where you're like typing, say a term paper, say the night before it's due, and you're like, you know, 3 lines from the end, and you haven't saved in like 45 minutes. The screen goes black, and the system restarts. Not that I'm bitter and going back to horrible places. The other thing to keep in mind is that a constant power on and off power cycle, it's really taxing on the components that aren't properly shut down. That can help lead to data loss and early component failure. So if your machine kind of like lerps along, look, a cheap power supply generally causes more problems than it solves. Yeah, it didn't cost you a lot of money, but you know, buying the $70 power supply instead of the $50 power supply, read the reviews online, and always pick a power supply that meets or exceeds your needs. In our collective experiences, a good power supply is pretty much what all of your PC components functioning properly rely on, must have.
It's funny, I never think of things being underpowered. I always think of, you know, pumping too much power and being the trouble.
Well, it's kind of
But
funny.
I guess it can go both ways.
I mean, you don't want to, you know, it's almost always like, I'd rather have a quality, you know, it's part of it's like, don't just go for the giant power supply, like it's 1,000 watts, dude. Yeah, but it's from like Super Weasel Power Supplies, and nobody's ever heard of it.
.com.
Well, it's so funny, right? Because a lot of yeah, superweaselpowersupply.com. I gotta go.
Register that quickly.
GoDaddy.com. Use the TEK code. It's really crazy, right? Because a lot of you're buying like the 1,000 watt mega, but the problem is a crappy power supply unit. It may do a crappy job even if you're nowhere near its limits. In fact, a lot of crappy power supply units will not feed anything near the limits they claim on the box or on the spray paint on the outside of the power supply unit.
Okay.
I want to see if like Anand or Kyle or anybody has done some power supply roundups recently, because it'd be really fun to see who's still building good power supplies. Darn it, we got to do that. Maybe next week, if not the week after.
Yeah.
I'll make phone calls.
Okay.
I'll
Make it
pound
happen.
the beat thing.
Make it so.
If you like to keep your flame wars on the message boards and out of the kitchen, you're going to love Revision 3's new interactive cooking show. It's called Food Mob. Join host Niall Harbison every Thursday when he cooks up a fabulous new dish. So if you've always wanted to learn how to cook something more complicated than instant ramens or microwaving a Hungry Man dinner, which doesn't work because of the aluminum, ask my cousin. Tune in each and every Thursday at revision3.com/foodmob. Learning how to make good food is a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. For everybody watching, we live on your questions, so email us, Tekzilla at revision3.com, tech help, product reviews, how-tos, and if you ask us, we'll do it. But we need those emails. Where do they send them, Veronica?
Send them on into Tekzilla at revision3.com. Or even better, send us in a video question. Think of all the fun you can have and the admiration of all your friends and family when they see your mug on our show. Just keep it to 15 seconds, upload it to YouTube, and send us a link in an email with video question in the subject line. And as always, you can visit our forums at revision3.com/forum. Share your thoughts, ideas, or comments with other fans of the show. And you can keep up on the ever-going saga between Dave Moo and Computo Man.
Uh-oh.
Saga. Dun, dun, dun.
Is it an epic
for
saga or
watching.
just a saga?
It's a saga. It's pretty epic.
So it's an
It's just
epic
back
saga.
and forth. It's an epic saga. It's pretty epic.
Thanks so much for watching. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Until next time, you've been watching Tekzilla. Should I be afraid of what the fuzzy thing does?
That's not mine. I have no idea what that is.
I thought this was a special drive tool.
I have nothing to do with that.
Perform simple timeline edits.
There you go. Perfect.
Oh, there we go. On cue. On cue.
Perfect.
Thanks, AT&T,
That's it.
Hold
for
that
once
thought.
not being a disappointment.
Just leave it right here for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, there's one more thing I want to do. Let's get Roger's phone in here, the T-Mobile Edge.
Bam.
5 bars.
Bam.
5.